He'll take it any way you
right, man.
Okay.
No such thing as bad press. All right, here we go, fellas. 30 seconds.
But I met a Bears guy on the way over to Quick Trip before. He and I were walking down the street. He's talking all his trash. I don't know when we play in Chicago anymore. Maybe if I read the promos they asked us to make.
All right, here we go.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, Dominic. It's a big Monday. Happy Juneteenth to the entire audience.
Oh, Crudy, happy Monday. Happy Juneteenth to you, my friend Evan Workin, the board, our fair audience. Happy days indeed.
Dominic, I've got a fine guest here with me in Madison. Solidarity Realty Studios, WMDX, Mad Radio, and it's Civic Media's own Todd Allbaugh. Todd the God, welcome to the greatest radio show ever. Some people say.
High expectations, Todd.
Well, believe me, I have a lot of things. God is not one of them, gentlemen. But happy to be here.
Hey, if someone asks you if you are a god, you say yes.
High expectations.
Todd, here's the good news. Not you, not me, not Dom. None of us had to go to the GOP convention this weekend in La Crosse.
We did try.
We did ask.
Give it our best shot.
We sent him a check.
Right?
Right. That's more than asking. That's like, here's money.
Apparently the GOP doing so well, they don't need our money, Todd.
I guess. I mean, they're behind fundraising behind Ben Wickler, the Democratic Party. But I went to between 1982 and 2009. I maybe missed 3 or 4 Republican state conventions in my life, but thankful that I didn't have to go to this one.
Well, Tom and I did not attend either. We were disinvited, as you were. But Todd, there wasn't even any viable U.S. Senate candidates. I mean, isn't this when you roll out your big sticks, your thunder makers, your rain makers?
You mean Toxic Tom Tiffany is not a viable candidate? David Clark and his hat are not viable candidates? Come on.
Well, define viable.
Well, that's tongue in cheek, obviously. No, I mean they're in a world of hurt. I mean, they know that their ideas are not going to get them to 50+1. You look at their resolutions that were recommended by the resolutions committee.
Let's hold off on those for just a minute.
It's terrible.
Let's talk just for a minute longer, and you can join if you care. They've got no viable candidates.
And let me interject, and I do care to join. Mark Jefferson, the executive director of the Republican Party of Wisconsin, told the Journal Sentinel this: I don't think anybody's fairly concerned about the timing thing, and we have some strong candidates looking at it. Strong candidates, according to Mark Jefferson, looking at running for Senate. So don't worry about it. Jefferson says
not Mike Gallagher, not Scott Walker. Who are these?
They did look at it and they declined, but they looked at it.
The only strong candidate I see, Todd, is Tammy Baldwin. I'm calling her unbeatable Tammy Baldwin until at least the Republicans can roll out a candidate.
I was in politics to know you never say that particularly, but certainly I don't see anybody, to use your word, viable on the Republican side right now.
Well, I'm not running her campaign. I can say whatever I want on the radio. I was pretty confident about Protasewicz. I kind of tamped it down there. I want to make sure we encourage our friends to vote. But of course, with the presidential year and, Joe Biden, if he doesn't light him up, well, Tammy Baldwin probably will. Yeah. I'm very excited to have Tammy at the top of the ticket this year. I think we need a U.S. Senate race. It'll certainly keep the politics lively here in the state of Wisconsin. but no candidate, none of the big shots. Although, you hear the same also rans rolled out again. I see the Kevin Nicholson was bantered.
Judas Priest.
And former Lieutenant Governor Rebecca Clayfish, which, I hadn't considered her prior for this U.S. Senate role. I think maybe on the sidelines for now, but who knows? Maybe considering she'd be more viable than some of the names being bantered about. And the winner of the straw poll, Toxic Tom, 33%.
Oh, really? Tiffany won the
straw poll?
I think so.
Okay.
Yep.
And number 2 was Dom's boy, Sheriff David A. Clark Jr.
It's pitchforks and torches time in America.
He had like 18%. I think like Kevin Nicholson was on that list, and didn't see Clayfish, but she may not have been polled in that.
I'm not sure.
In the straw poll at the convention. And one other perhaps erroneous bit of reporting I would question. Did you know they said that Rebecca Clayfish endorsed Tim Michaels, but never campaigned with him? And that is not my understanding. There was no endorsement or campaigning.
I think you're right, Crudy. I don't remember. I guess exactly for sure. I mean, she might have done
I'm not close
perfunctory.
with Rebecca, but I know Joel pretty well. And I can just tell you that family is still
Oh yeah,
a little sore. Stung, you might say.
she might have done a perfunctory endorsement, and then I think they went on a big family vacation. Didn't
Don't
they?
think
They
so.
left the state. I
I
think so. I'm not making that up.
Someone might have released someone from the campaign might have put something out there. But if you ask that family, there's no love for
No.
Tim Michaels.
No love lost there. Toxic Tom Tiffany, Congressman to you, Crudy. He said this on Saturday, according to the Journal Sentinel. In an ideal world, you pick a perfect candidate and they clear the field, and they're the sole candidate. You'd love to see that, but that's not always how it works. You think Tom is seeing himself as the perfect candidate? He goes on. The key thing is that whoever's running, they've got to figure out from the get-go, how are they going to fund their campaign after the primaries? You got to be able to answer that question.
Well, Tom would sell his soul, I have no doubt, but who's buying? Who's buying, Todd?
The hardline MAGA people, certainly. I mean, you look at the way he's been voting compared to Gallagher, and I mean, he's going after the right-wing MAGA crowd. He's going after the primary crowd, as you guys have talked about in other programs on Civic as well. It's the gerrymandered effect, right? In his congressional race, it's gerrymandered so that the primaries affect or go after the furthest to the right and the furthest to the left. And that's going to be the same way in the statewide race in the Republican primary. The furthest right will probably come out on top.
Speaking of the furthest right, we've just gotten some insight from a flight. Our pal, Maggie Dawn, is on the same flight with a rumpled-looking Congressman Glenn Grothman. Glenn's
always rumpled.
I
That
saw
is a wrinkled shirt, man. I mean, let's just be real about this.
we're coming up on the 4th of July, and it's been a couple years, but remember when Trump came on the 4th of July, and my daughter was flying into Mitchell, and they couldn't even do the fireworks on time, right? Because Trump had the airspace shut down, and it got later and later, and I'm waiting at Mitchell for my daughter, and finally she arrives, and she's coming from LA, or her connecting flight, and as fate would have it, there's a rumpled looking Glenn Grothman. And I did acknowledge him. He's been on the show probably 6 times, half
Been a while.
Been a while. And, I was polite. I introduced my daughter to the congressman. But what I found very, very interesting is the most Trumpiest congressman, Glenn Grothman, I believe by voting record, was the Trumpiest. Trump never learned how to say his name right. He was Grothman all the time, right?
Yes.
And B,
Not that you should really be one judging speaking people's names properly, just for the record.
Hey, I bet you Tony Evers knows how to say my name. But 2, Grothman didn't get to fly on Air Force One.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not only did he not make the cut for Air Force One, because Trump was in the air, he was in a holding pattern indefinitely. He was really late, like 90 minutes late on his flight. And, he looked a little worse for wear. Here's my question. I was at the, and as were you, I saw you at the Democratic Party convention.
Yeah.
I've been to a lot of those. Dom, generally goes, not this year. They got to do a Friday night affair for Dom to show up. But what I really care about is opponents for Glenn Grothman and Mike Gallagher. I think the Democrats need to at least round out the congressional field. And for the love of God, roll out an opponent to Glenn Grothman. And then next year's, I don't even know what next year. It's just presidential, I guess.
Yeah.
You got to have one against Grothman. You got to have one against Gallagher. Do you think the Democrats will do a better job of, presenting a full flight of candidates, if you will?
I hope so. I know that Dr. Kristen Lyerly, who is a guest on Up North News with Pat Kreitlow frequently, she has been bantered about as a possible candidate against Mike Gallagher. I think she'd make an outstanding candidate up there in Green Bay. I haven't heard anybody from Glenn Grothman. To me, unless we get better maps that once Janet Protasewicz is on the Supreme Court, which we might. But to me, the bigger thing, rather than Glenn Grothman's seat, I want to see competitive races against people like Tony Kurtz in the state assembly to take that guy out on the Joint Finance Committee. I want Democrats to have good legislative candidates in both the Assembly and the State Senate. Well,
the legislative races, unfortunately, on the Assembly and the Senate level, there's very few competitive seats. I mean, mostly they're around Brookfield, Waukesha. They're not out there in Richland County, are they?
Sure. I mean, Democrats had a great candidate in Chris Marion, not this last time, but the time before, in Southwest Wisconsin. She was everything that you could tick off a great candidate in Southwest Wisconsin. And the Democrats didn't give her enough money for airtime, and Republicans dumped in all kinds of third-party money for Howard Markline and saved its rear end. Same thing over in the 3rd Congressional District. I mean, you have Brad Pfaff, and Democrats pulled out a month before the election on the national level, and Van Orton wins by what, 0.5% or something like that?
A little more than that. It was 3 or 4, but it was still very close.
Look, I think Democrats have done a great job, but they have certainly missed some opportunities in recent years.
Yeah, but Ben raises a lot of money.
He does. Hats off to him. I'm all for that. I'm just saying that there is room for improvement.
I tease the Democratic Party. Because while they have been successful on a number of levels, of course, I want to see rounded out flights of candidates. Our democracy deserves that, certainly on the congressional level, but every single seat, there's something like 72 seats on the ballot this year. Was it state senators? They're on a 4-year term.
But look at down by you, the guy the woman that ran against Van Odel or Dan Knodel. She won, and that's in our district.
Abish Sinekin.
Yeah, she was a great candidate, and she almost pulled it off.
Almost. So close.
Hand grenades and horseshoes.
Oh, man.
Not quite.
No, I've got a little real estate now in the 6 CD. Might have to move my permanent residence. I don't get many bills in the mail at the house anymore. They email them. So, if Papa was a Rolling Stone, isn't home wherever he lays his head.
I think that's how it is. Or in a trailer park somewhere, like, how the Republicans do it.
Trailer parks. Come back with us. Never trailer park trash. He's Todd the God Allbaugh, host at Civic Media. Catch him 1 to 3. Kind of warms him up for Matt, and then Matt warms him up for us. And you're going to stick around because, Todd, you're sticking around as well.
Your local community or the entire state, Civic Media can help. Find out more at civicmedia.us.
Whether you're shopping online or in person, Knucklehead CBD and Vapes has everything you're looking for. From Delta 8 to 9 and 10 to THCB, THCA, HHC, and more. And don't forget about All Wellness Flower. It comes in a variety of isomers. Find jars, pre-rolls, and cigs online or at the shop. Plus, check out Knucklehead's Wellness Weekend Sale featuring a fantastic 15% discount on all their top quality hemp products, CBD, and Delta products. Knucklehead CBD and Vapes. Ignite your well-being at knuckleheads.shop or at 550 State Street in Madison.
Over the past 30 years, Chad's Design Build has grown and improved how we do things, but we've never lost sight of our commitment to be a great place to work, focused on quality renovations for outstanding clients. Paying a living wage and providing excellent benefits to promote work-life balance does in fact attract outstanding people, which helps to explain our stellar reputation. Thank you, Madison, for 30 amazing years, building a better world one remodeled home at a time. This is Chad Spate for Chad's Design Build.
You are never far away from your favorite radio station. We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. And if you missed your favorite show or game, listen to a podcast of it anytime on the app or our website, civicmedia.us.
Here's your Mad Radio forecast. Clear skies tonight with a low of 58. Winds out of the east 5 to 10 miles an hour. Mainly sunny skies and calm. Tomorrow, high temperatures reach up to 87. Lows around 61 tomorrow night. Dry with temperatures a bit above average Wednesday and Thursday, and highs from the mid-80s to the upper 80s. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 86 degrees.
This summer, Mad Radio 92.7 WMDX has a new starting lineup. Beginning at 6, Up North News. Then at 8, The Stephanie Miller Show on Mad Radio.
When they go low, we get high. The Devil's Advocates.
We are back from the 420 break. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Your calls always welcome here, 844-967-2789. Our guest, Todd Allbaugh, the Todd Allbaugh Show, right here on the Civic Media Network. Todd, thanks for sticking around. I want to get to some of the resolutions that came out of the Wisconsin GOP convention, but I want to get this out there before we attack that one from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Apparently, Robin Voss, he continued his attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts at States Public University. Very DeSantis of him. And
Give
now
him the quote, Tom. Give him the quote.
It says he's embarrassed to be a University of Wisconsin system alumnus because of it. Here's the quote from Speaker Robin Voss. This is probably, to me, the single most important issue that we are facing as a people, as a nation, and as really humanity, Assembly Speaker Robin Voss said in remarks at the State Republican Party convention. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Voss of Rochester relabeled the DEI acronym division, exclusion, and indoctrination, and suggested the UW system, and in particular Madison, puts an outsized emphasis on diversity efforts, which he sees as a waste of taxpayer money and source of racial division.
So if I understand this, the greatest crime against humanity is the fact that Robin Voss can't use the N-word out loud?
Basically, yes. How very first world of him. I mean, really, how dramatic. Are you kidding me? Literally, humanity? This is the greatest thing we're facing as humanity, Tom. Todd, sorry.
Tom, I just don't call me late for dinner. You know, that's
don't forget, Todd rhymes with God.
No, good Lord. Don't say that. Here's my favorite part of the quote, Dom and Crudy. At the end, he tweeted this. He says, DEI is the new religion of the left. They don't go to church on Sunday, but they have no problem using taxpayer money to evangelize on every college campus across the state. We have to stop, put our foot down, and not allow it to continue. Well, first of all, it sounds a little anti-Semitic, but in case Robin doesn't know, Jewish people go to temple on Saturday, so that's number one. And also just so interesting that he talks about this evangelizing and Christianity. I wonder if what the women at the Republican Women Prayer Breakfast on Sunday in La Crosse thought of Robin Voss when he walked in, not with wife number one, not with wife number two, but with wife number three. And I was around the Capitol during the Walker years when he used to be going to quote unquote political strategy sessions with then Representative Litchkin and Jeremy the Segway Boy. Remember him? Jeremy would follow, the Segway Boy would follow Voss and Litchkin around and videotape it, and it would absolutely outrage Voss. Here's the thing, guys. I am no moral purist. I am not the personification of character. But you know, I try really hard not to be a hypocrite. And when you start bringing up religion and veiling this and Christianity, and then Mark Buchanan and his husband used to go to dinner with Robin Voss and I think his second wife. But guess what? The hetero couple had an affair and broke up. The gay couple is still together and happy. You know, who's the immoral one in this state? It's the hypocrisy, guys, that ticks me off.
What about the what do you call them? The
resolutions?
The resolutions, yeah. Yes. What about the abortion resolution? These Republicans certainly must have learned their lesson from the loss of a couple of straight elections since the Dobbs decision, the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So as a party, they've evolved on this issue, right?
You'd think so, Critty. You'd think so, Critty and Dom. I've got in my hot little hands the 2023 Republican Party of Wisconsin proposed resolutions. And here is a copy of Resolution 2023-28, Sanctity of Human Life. And this passed in La Crosse this weekend. I'll simply skip down to the be it further resolved part. Be it further resolved, the state of Wisconsin and local government enforce Wisconsin's 1849 abortion law, which bans abortion everywhere in Wisconsin, including, get this, at the University of Wisconsin and all its satellite locations, and the research and or use of embryonic stem cells and aborted fetal tissue are prohibited. And then it goes on to basically say that an unborn baby wants to be a legal personhood so they can skip over the federal stuff. I mean, I went to UW Richland, the 2-year campus out in Southwest Wisconsin. I don't remember any backroom abortion clinics in the bio lab at Richland Center. I mean, these people are crazy. And this was my party up until 2011 when I left it. I mean, I'm telling you guys, they have hijacked the Republican Party label. They aren't any more Republican than, I can't even think of an analogy. They have completely left the principles of the founding of the Republican Party.
And besmirched the beautiful city of La Crosse by GOP conventioning there on the riverside.
It's a sad day. I mean, it's for someone who grew up thinking of better government is smaller government, personal responsibility, local control. And again, I'm not here to defend Tommy Thompson as the one-all be-all. But you know what? When Tommy, I remember the convention, Republican convention, I think it was 92 or 94 in Green Bay. I was in the room. And a reporter said, Governor Thompson, what's your standing on abortion? Here was his answer, paraphrased. He said, as a practicing Catholic, I believe in the sanctity of human life. That's my personal opinion, and that's the stand of our party, but I respect other people's opinion. Next question. That was it. He had an opinion. That's fine. But they didn't go on and on about this. And the thing is, Critty,
they didn't resolve to uphold the 1849 abortion ban at Tommy's convention.
The good old days.
Maybe at pro-life, but not. I don't think I could stand corrected. But I don't think the 1849 abortion ban. But they don't talk about issues that get 50 plus 1% of the vote. And I think if you look at my old friend Brian Schimming, the chair of the Republican Party, he was trying to get them to change on voting. And they have these resolutions in here again, completely contrary to what the chairman of the Wisconsin Republican Party is trying to sell, which is he's in favor now of early voting, in favor of absentee voting. And the delegates have a resolution that are saying we don't want kids or any college students to vote on college campuses, trying to suppress voting in this state.
Again, still,
Dom, still to your point.
If those kids on campus would just vote Republican, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
They were considering a resolution to roll back the Emancipation Proclamation. They had to table it for now, but
for now,
strongly considered. Folks, we're the Devil's Advocates. Thank you, Todd Allbaugh. Tune in for him 1 to 3 across the Civic Media Network. Thank you, Todd the God Allbaugh.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you, guys.
EX has a new starting lineup. 4 to 6, the Devil's Advocates with Tom and Cruz. Then at 6, the Maggie Dawn Show on Mad Radio 92.7
ABC
WMDX.
News, I'm Rena Roy. A search is underway for a small research submarine missing near the wreck of the Titanic, about 900 miles off the coast of Cape Cod. Explorer Larry Daly recalled his own trip down to the sunken ship.
We have our own breathing system on board, and if that's maintained properly, like changing your filter and your CO2 scrubber, you can stay down there for quite a few hours.
There are 5 people on board. China's top diplomat for the Western Hemisphere says Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit to China marks a new beginning for their nations to repair damaged relations. Blinken's conversation today with President Xi resulted in no major breakthroughs. At least 1 person is dead and nearly 24 injured after a series of tornadoes slammed Mississippi. The city that inspired Juneteenth pauses to remember. In 1865, slaves in Galveston, Texas were the last to learn that the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed. This is ABC News.
The Civic Media Network of radio stations across Wisconsin. We are your hometown radio, refreshed.
For Civic Media News, I'm Terry Bell. Here's what you need to know in south central Wisconsin. Enbridge Energy has 3 years to shut down parts of an oil pipeline that crosses reservation land in northern Wisconsin. The Canadian energy company also has to pay more than $5 million to the Bad River Band of Lake Superior Chippewa for trespassing. Federal Judge William Conley handed down those orders Friday. The tribe says the pipeline could rupture because of erosion. Today is the day Wisconsin officially observes the Juneteenth holiday. Governor Evers says Juneteenth is a day of celebration and of reckoning.
We also recognize and acknowledge the work that we have left to do to truly realize goals for a more equitable and just state.
Wisconsin has recognized Juneteenth since 2009. I'm Terry Bell, and this is Civic Media News.
Looking for a new pair of glasses? It's Brittany from Ula Eyewear. As one of Madison's only local, independent, and family-owned eyewear stores, Ula has been connecting people with fun, unique, and stylish frames for nearly 25 years. With glasses, readers, and sunglasses for customers of all ages, you'll find a variety of frames to fit your style and price points to fit your lifestyle. So don't wait. Head to Ula Eyewear at Hillville Shopping Center and find your pair of glasses. Ula Eyewear, uniquely you.
The Todd Allbaugh Show.
We'll be moving to the afternoon, Monday through Friday, 1 until 3. Trygve Olsen has graciously agreed to follow us into the afternoon. We're going to get to talk about the Lincoln Project and politics in Wisconsin, all across the state of Wisconsin.
I know, isn't that exciting? Where the beer is cold, the cheese curds are squeaky, the Harleys roar, the Eagles soar, and the Packers score, Todd.
The Todd Allbaugh Show. Weekday afternoons from 1 till 3 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
This is the story of a very special woman. Just a few knew about her superpowers. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Join the conversation with your favorite hosts or shows anytime. Follow Civic Media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Share your thoughts on our social media channels wherever you are, whenever you want. The Civic Media network of local radio stations here for you.
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the big Monday edition. Happy Juneteenth to everyone except for you, Robin Voss. Thank you, Todd the God Allbaugh. Now, why would you mind that moniker? Maybe he's God-fearing man. He's
maybe if you're God-fearing, you probably don't want to be called God. I think if there is a God, God wouldn't like that so much. But yeah, I don't mind. But my name doesn't rhyme with God. But you can just assume it.
Eric Hodvie, the Laguna Beach multi-millionaire businessman, considering a U.S. Senate run. I don't know if you saw the photo at the Journal-Sentinel.
Not a great photo.
Not a great photo. I mean, this guy has got a 1970s porn stash.
Oh, I love the stash, man. Come on. 70s are back, baby. Have you seen the Cadillac?
I mean, that looks like something Magnum was sporting back in 1982, dude. Not only is Hodvie sporting a porn stash, he's licking the porn stash on the front page of the Digital Journal Sentinel section. That would not be my campaign photo.
No.
You know, you wonder what he had.
I get it. I mean, literally, man, you wear a goatee, man, right? I mean, what?
Well, top to bottom, man.
Oh, yeah, I got it. But it seems kind of like, I don't know, 90s. I mean, that's an old fashioned. You and Chuck Todd, man, with the goatees, man. So, I mean, how you gonna knock a guy's mustache? You have a goatee.
Well, I don't wear a big bushy porn stash, dude. And if I had good hair, I probably wouldn't need the facial hair. I'm just trying to balance baldness a little here.
You could do a full beard, right? You could, you know,
foolish.
Or you could just, do the porn stash, man. Just cut that, take away the goatee. I'm just saying.
I don't like that look.
Look, his facial hair isn't as cool as your facial hair, is what you're telling me.
That's what I'm implying.
I don't know, man. That's a pretty
He's
cool.
got better bangs, no doubt. He's got better bangs. But you see me walking around licking my mustache. Time to trim the mustache.
Or just, wash up after dinner. But maybe he got a little beer foam in there. Maybe he's holding a cup in his hand. My understanding, he, Hovde, hold at like 8%. 8% he's getting.
He's self-funded. He's their favorite kind, Dom, because he's rich. He's self-funder. Anyways, Dom, I want to turn our attention back just for a minute to Robin Voss and some of the statements he made.
Yeah.
I'm going to quote him again. This is what he said Saturday at the State Republican Party Convention. And you can join us here on the Devil's Advocates Radio Show Mondays. We take participants at 844-967-2789. Once upon a time, then State Senator Glenn Grothman, I was questioning him on a topic, and Glenn turned to me and accused me, sort of in a lispy fashion, of being a little racist.
You were the one being racist.
He thought so, because I was bringing some anti-Black Republican policy. Well, apparently the acknowledgement of the color of someone's skin or the Juneteenth holiday makes one a little racist. Well, there's very little question when Robin Voss says things like this. This is probably, to me, the single most important issue there is facing as a people, as a nation, and really humanity. What, diversity education on college campuses?
Yeah, don't forget inclusion. I mean, diversity, education, inclusion. Oh my God, this is a crime against humanity.
Voss of Rochester, again, you read this, but I'm going to repeat it, relabeled the DEI acronym division, exclusion, and indoctrination. What is it? The bad ideas just start winning over the college kids like they used to, Robin? What precisely is the problem here? I mean, are you telling me that the biggest problem we have as a society is some sort of perceived reverse racism? Talking about, bad policies or systematic racism somehow.
Or historical policies that are part of this culture that are still, part of our systemic racism. If you believe in such a thing, yes, diversity, equity. These are terrible things. Inclusion. According to Robin Voss, those are the things that are humanity's greatest peril. I mean, literally, this came out of his mouth. And I cannot possibly believe that Robin Voss believes that, but that's what he said. That's what he said. Not gun violence, not climate change, not abortion, nothing else. This is the most important factor as a people, as a country, as humanity. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the recognition thereof, and the efforts to include and identify and appreciate and educate people on this. I mean, Juneteenth, right? The second Independence Day. Well, they're losing their mind over a federal holiday. Just a couple of years ago, signed by Biden. They don't like that. Hell, what did Charlie Kirk call BLM today? Not Black Lives Matter.
Burning, looting, and murder, of course.
Yes.
A little bit more from Wisconsin Assembly Speaker Robin Voss. Again, here he apparently on a panel discussion is quoting a professor. This is not his words per se, but he is a graduate of UW-Whitewater, 1991. The overt racism, the overt exclusion, the overt indoctrination is so deep inside the UW system. I am embarrassed to be an alumni. We got to fix that. Voss's comments were the latest in a rift with Democrats in the UW system that has led to a standoff over a portion of the state's budget. Now, Democratic Governor Tony Evers proposed a $305 million budget increase for the UW system, but Voss is seeking a cut of at least $32 million in the system's budget, largely in an effort to eliminate the DEI programming, inclusionary programming. Now, Evers told the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel last week that he would veto a budget that contained a $32 million cut in the UW system at a time when the state has a $7 billion surplus. That's like 7,000 millions. And you're cutting back 32 of them to make some sort of racist political point. But Voss later countered by suggesting the budget cut could go deeper. I'd stick it to you worse than that, he claims. UW System President Jay Rothman, meanwhile, has talked about the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion programming on campuses. Diversity offices, some argue, help recruit students at a time of declining enrollment and foster a sense of belonging for those who have historically been discriminated against in higher education. I don't think they mean white dudes like Robin Voss. In a lengthy Twitter thread Friday afternoon, Rothman addressed the proposed UW system budget cut without mentioning the DEI efforts. The UW system exists to help the state of Wisconsin. I've been a resident of Wisconsin my entire life. Shrinking our budget when we need to invest in Wisconsin talent to win the war for talent would have serious consequences. And then, of course, that statement. I know you read it once, but I'm going to be redundant. Read it again. Robin Voss. DEI is the new religion of the left. They don't go to church on Sunday, but they have no problem using taxpayer dollars to evangelize on every college campus across the state. We have to stop, put our foot down, and not allow it to continue. Make America great again, Nam.
It's evangelize. I mean, they can't even help but use these religious terms and to address, to have a proactive effort to address the lack of diversity, the lack of equity, the lack of inclusion. I mean, these guys act like, this never happened. Slavery never happened. Literally, Juneteenth is today, right? I mean, slavery came to this country in 1619? 1776, of course, the American independence, Juneteenth, 1865. Does that sound right? So when America celebrated her independence from King George, our African-American brothers and sisters, they didn't get to celebrate that. Like literally after the war, they had to send troops down to Galveston? Hey, you're really, really free now. They didn't let them go willingly. This is barely over 100 years ago. This is not ancient history. And we still feel the ramifications of it today. And it doesn't help when guys like Robin Voss, who I cannot imagine, truly believes that this is the most important issue facing humanity. Can't believe that, but that's what he said, that this is the hill he's going to die on.
Well, they actually wanted to do reapportionment with 3/5 of the black people.
Was that another resolution?
That was the thought process. If you gotta do what you gotta do to win.
Allegedly. I mean, I haven't seen it, but
I don't know what's in between his ears.
I don't know. We cannot possibly speculate the motivation, but we can certainly articulate what he says. And literally, the dude said, "Diversity, equity, and inclusion is the greatest, most important issue facing humanity." What an ass.
844-967-2789. Tom from Madtown. Welcome, Tom. Welcome back. What do you got for us?
Hey, Tom.
Hey, guys. Yeah, I just got in the car, turned on the radio, listened to the Devil's Advocates, and heard you talking about Robin Voss. So I called Robin Voss's office and said, yeah, why is DEI so dangerous? And nothing. The guy just stopped talking. So I said, hello, are you there? I called him back, and the phone got picked up, and then they didn't say anything. So I turned on the Devil's Advocates, and I said, yeah, this is the story we're talking about here. Maybe you can, maybe you'll learn something if you listen to the Devil's Advocates. So no response from it, but, if you want to go talk to Robin Voss, definitely I suggest all the listeners do that, especially today. Just wish him and Glenn Grothman and some of those other guys a happy Juneteenth.
Oh, I'm sure it'd make them fuzzy on the inside, Tom. They can hear us all across Robin Voss's district in Mount Pleasant. We're now playing out on WRJN, the Heritage Station, 1400 AM, 99.9 FM, and 98.1 FM. I hope he can hear me now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely. At least his staff can, because I've definitely noticed that his staff has no idea what anyone's talking about when they call up with questions about anything that Robin Vos is advocating for or being against.
But did he take a meeting with Jeffrey Clark just last year when Clark came as a agent of Donald Trump, still trying to overturn the 2020 election, April of 22, I believe it was? And Robin Vos entertained him at his office and entertained the ludicrous request that he would make that they overturn the outcome of an election 2 years in the history books. Robin Vos, well, he takes certain visitors, if you know what I'm saying, Tom.
Well, it's got to be tough, once you get that private jet, ride from Donald Trump and you think you're really going somewhere, and then you see all the MAGA stuff just crumbling. What's he going to do except try to be a mini Donald or something?
Well, and that's exactly it, Tom. And that's why, he says these asinine things. And thank you for the call.
Am I pretty close on the Jeffrey Clark coming and trying
to? I kind of remember. But of course, Robin Vos, just like the other MAGAs, other MAGAs, if you act like a MAGA and project MAGA, pretty soon you're MAGA, right? You are what you act, man. You are who you hang out with. And Robin Vos, you are MAGA, and he's trying to sell that to the MAGA. Of course, this is the Wisconsin GOP MAGA convention, and he's saying these things to keep the base riled up, because you're not going to get anywhere on abortion. That's already locked in. But boy, if you can get people wound up over DEI, what another way to split people, another way to divide the electorate. There's a culture issue we can all get behind. What about the old days? What about taxes? You know what I mean? You can talk about these things. But on Juneteenth, if you don't recognize that we are still not equitable here in this country, and that we still have systemic racism. The very fact that African Americans in this country really weren't freed in 1776, there's history there. There's residual there. And it's a lot, and it's impactful. And by ignoring it, not addressing it, just to shake up your voters, just to motivate the MAGA base, that's pretty gutter politics. Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. 844-967-2789. Come back. More of your calls.
Dream of Californication. Dream of Californication.
In accordance with your politics. That's why Solidarity Realty is my favorite real estate firm in Madison. Solidarity Realty is a local independent realty company that lives their values. They provide outstanding expertise and protect your best interests while building community and promoting sustainability and diversity. Viva la resistance! Find them today at solidarityrealty.com. And don't forget, tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
Larry, it's your mom. Did you know the Civic Media Network covers the whole state of Wisconsin? They can help your business get the word out, whether you want to reach a smidge of folks or just want the whole kit and caboodle. Call 608-819-8255. Okay then, bye.
Hey, this is Matt from Design Garden. Remember when the internet was new? Back then you had to leave your house to start a business. Companies used to pay programmers bags of cash to get online. Now, small businesses can get online with a Facebook business page or Squarespace, or Google My Business, or WordPress? But which tools should you use? Can you afford to go down the wrong path? Design Garden uses modern tools to build your website the right way. Find us online at design.garden. Again, that's design.garden.
Fear you may be missing out? We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. Enjoy listening live or catch up by finding the podcast at civicmedia.us or wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts.
Here's your Mad Radio forecast. Lows dip down to about 58 tonight under clear skies. Winds out of the east 5 to 10 miles an hour. Mainly sunny skies and calm tomorrow. Daytime highs approaching 87. Lows dip down to about 61 tomorrow night. Clear skies. Dry with temperatures a bit above average Wednesday and Thursday, and highs from the mid-80s to the upper 80s. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 86 degrees.
This summer, Mad Radio 92.7 WMDX has a new starting lineup. At 3 p.m., The Matt McNeil Show. 4 to
Oh, make me over. I'm all I wanna be. A walking study.
The Devil's Advocates, radio for the 99%.
Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Glad you could make it. You can join us on the lines at 844-967-2789.
Tom, I mischaracterized Wisconsin Assembly Speaker Robin Vos as having met with an agent of Donald Trump, Jeffrey Clark, still trying to overturn the election in April of 2022. I'd like to correct the record at this time. It wasn't Clark. It was John Eastman.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Rolling Stone reports January 6th architect John Eastman is still plotting to overturn the 2020 election. This published April 11th of last year, 2022, 2 years plus, right? The conservative lawyer who wrote several memos arguing that then Vice President Mike Pence could stop the certification of Joe Biden's victory on January 6th isn't done fighting to block the election result. ABC News reported on Monday, again, this from April of 22, that Eastman gave a private briefing to the Speaker of the Wisconsin legislature in March, that's Robin Vos, and reportedly made the case for decertifying Biden's 2020 victory in the state. A conservative activist named Jefferson Davis, who attended the briefing, told ABC that Eastman pressed Wisconsin Speaker Robin Vos to reclaim Biden's electors and commit to, and here's the quote, either a do-over or having a new slate of electors seated that would declare someone else the winner. So what the voters voted for.
I mean, we don't need no stinking democracy.
A little bit more here, Dom. Eastman's closed-door meeting with Wisconsin Republicans wasn't the first time he fueled the far-right push to throw out the battleground state's 2020 election results. As Rolling Stone first reported in February, Eastman wrote an 8-page memo to State Rep Tim Ramjam Rantham, arguing the legislature could toss out the election results if there was acknowledged illegality in the vote count, which there was not. Anyways, legal experts have said it's impossible to decertify the last election and pull back the elections won by Biden, as the Wisconsin Legislative Council concluded last year, is that the WEC, there is no mechanism in state or federal law for the legislature to reverse certified votes cast by the Electoral College and counted by Congress. That doesn't stop Eastman from trying.
Doesn't stop Robin Vos from taking
the meeting.
Doesn't stop Tim Ramjam Rantham for promoting and pushing that, along with several other Wisconsin Republicans. And hell, I mean, to my understanding, this gathering in La Crosse this weekend, those GOP faithful, man, they still think to this day that Trump had the election stolen from him. I mean, literally, that's what they believe. And I'm the atheist on the panel, Crudy. I think there's more physical evidence to the existence of Jesus Christ than there was that Donald Trump got the election stolen from him. I mean, what are you talking about? What is your proof? What is your example? Certainly not the cases that you lost. So what? Because Donald Trump told you? I wouldn't take that to the bank, Republican megas.
You got to have faith, Tom.
The faith.
848. What number are we?
844-967.
2789. Scott on the trail. Welcome, Scott. What do you got for us?
Hey, Scott.
Hello, gentlemen. Happy night, Juneteenth Day.
Right on to you too, man.
Hey, I'd like to thank Sage for finally getting an Android version of the new app. It's fantastic. And next, I do have a grievance. Crudy, it's with you. I put bumper stickers on the back of my car, and they haven't been covered up by new bumper stickers for your radio station. To do something about that.
Scott, I wish I controlled the swag output around this joint. We would have swag for all. Sorry, man, you got kind of a bad cell connection. It sounds like you're out walking the trails or something.
Out riding the trails. Sounds pretty windy out there. Thank you for the call, Scott. Yeah. The new shiny new app has been updated for the Google operating system. My understanding.
People are taking notice.
Yeah, it's cool. Good stuff. Great app. Make sure you check it out at your app store.
both Jeff and Kuchka also noted, the Ukrainian, right? I have already been an early adopter of the new app, the Civic Media app. It's shiny, it's new, it's better. Shuts off less, plays through. You can text us in real time. We get the text right on my little screen here, Dom. It's so convenient for me. I actually read the text now.
Well, you can actually, there's a call button on there too, right? You hit the button and it'll call in.
Yeah, you don't even have to hear for the phone number. That's why I've stopped remembering it. You only had 844-967-2789. If you had the app, Mark, you wouldn't even have to memorize the phone number. How you doing? Mark from the SAC. Welcome back.
Hey, Mark.
Okay, I got you on speed dial anyway. So,
nice.
It's just ridiculous.
Are we number one on your speed dial?
You're pretty close.
You remember growing up, like where you placed in somebody's speed dial lineup kind of told you where you were in their heart? If you weren't on page one of their speed dial, oh man, you had to break up with the girl.
It's ridiculous that I promised my mom that I'd always believe in dragons when she got done singing Puff the Magic Dragon to me. And in some way, I believe the spirit of that, but these Republicans are just ridiculous. I mean, that they've ignored their oath to the Constitution of the United States by their resolution about they were going to choose the electors when the 14th Amendment, Section 2, clearly points out that the electorate chooses the electors, not the legislators. And I'm confused on what the penalties are supposed to be if they ignore that. But I'll have to ask Maggie or Jim Santel what that actually means in the second portion of that, the second Section 2 of that. But I mean, for Robin Voss, does he not believe in covenant marriage that the Republicans are pimping these days?
We're all sinners, Mark. You just go and ask for forgiveness and you do it all over again.
I don't know that Robin Voss ever really held up the covenant of marriage, at least when he moved from 1 to 2 to 3.
That's weird how Robin Voss's marriage absolutely has zero effect on my ability to marry whomever I want, right? So why do they give a damn who anybody else marries?
I bet he gets to 5, Don. What do you think?
5?
He'll be like the Jackson family.
Oh, come on. It's true love now, man. I'm sure.
Come back with us if you really love us. Someone did text us out on the brand new app, WMBX. They just texted, I heart you, Devils.
Oh, we heart you back.
Exactly. Come back with us. More Devils Advocates, the happier happy hour. Do you know that the FBI tried to open an investigation on Donald Trump and were blocked for over a year, Don? No wonder why the guy hasn't been freaking indicted yet.
It is political. It was political on the Dem side because they didn't want to look too political, going after the obvious crimes right in front of you, so you're not political. Washington Post has a big piece on that. We'll get to that in the next hour.
Trumplandia, hour 2 is next.
Discover your true radiance and bring out the beauty within at All Things BS Inc. At All Things BS, a salon by Brooke Schmidt. Your cut, color, or style will receive.
It's 5 o'clock. I'm Terry Bell, and here's what you need to know in Wisconsin.
The construction worker who was injured while working at Lambeau Field last week has died. Mavid Construction says in a press release that the worker was critically injured on Thursday and died at the hospital on Saturday. The Packers and Mavid Construction are not releasing the worker's name until the investigation is over, but the company says his father and brother also work for Mavid. A spokesperson says the employee was an organ donor. The future of higher education in Wisconsin is a hot topic of discussion lately, and a state Senate committee hearing today. State lawmakers want to cut funding for diversity efforts in the University of Wisconsin system. Assembly Speaker Robin Vos dismisses diversity, equity, and inclusion as, quote, the left's new religion. But UW System President Jay Rothman says DEI is actually important for retaining students and supplying Wisconsin's workforce with college graduates.
And that's, historically underrepresented groups, that's veterans, that's disabled students, that's first-generation students, that's people of different ideologies, political or otherwise, that's different religions. We have to create that inclusive environment so that we can recruit them, so that they can feel that they belong in our universities, so that they stay and they graduate. Because at the end of the day, that's what's important to our state.
Rothman on Upfront on Channel 12 in Milwaukee. The shared revenue bill already bans state money for DEI at the local government level. Governor Evers says he'll veto the entire state budget bill if lawmakers strip funding for UW System DEI. Today is Juneteenth. Pete Schwaba reports.
Juneteenth is a federal holiday. Banks, the post office, and stock markets are closed today. But Wisconsin is not one of the 14 states which have given Juneteenth holiday status. Meanwhile, Governor Evers says Juneteenth is a day of celebration and of reckoning.
We also recognize and acknowledge the work that we have left to do to truly realize goals for a more equitable and just state.
Juneteenth marks the day in 1865 that the last enslaved black people in the United States learned of their freedom under the Emancipation Proclamation. Pete Schwaba, Civic Media News.
It's been a week since searchers started looking for 13-year-old James Oblonsky in the woods near Baraboo. The Sauk County Sheriff says James ran away from home with one of his father's guns and a survival book last weekend. The Sheriff's Office says they found 2 campsites, but so far, no sign of James. And the weather's getting warm enough to kill more fish than normal. The Department of Natural Resources is reminding people out on the water to report fish kills to their local DNR fish biologist. And that's what Wisconsin needs to know. I'm Terry Bell. News time is 5:03.
This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Big Monday edition, the Juneteenth edition, the Happier Happy Hour. Dom, some troubling news. CBS, Channel 58 out of Milwaukee. There is a large police presence near MLK in Chambers in Milwaukee Monday afternoon. They do have a crew at the scene, and reporter AJ Bayatpour is reporting breaking huge police presence at MLK and Chambers outside the Juneteenth teen zone. Multiple witnesses tell me there's been a shooting with multiple victims. That is the breaking news in the last 9 minutes out of Milwaukee on Twitter. AJ Bayatpour reporting there, and CBS 58 News. So, another day, another shooting. 844-967-2789. But Dom, we anticipated starting the hour talking about the fact that the former president of the United States, perhaps should have been charged, should have been investigated. But the Washington Post has an exclusive report. The FBI resisted opening a probe into Trump's role in January 6th for more than a year, Dom.
Wow.
More than a year. And what was the rationale? I mean, this is a very comprehensive article. And as I understand this, and I'm going some based on the fact that you've read it all and I've only skimmed parts, but from your explanation, Dom, this does not seem to be some effort to protect Trump per se. This is more of a concern about the perception that the former president being investigated. Well, this is what, Dom? How would you characterize this? Where do we go from here?
The reporting, again, a fantastic piece at the Washington Post. Carol Lenning, Aaron Davis reporting. We'll get to it. Let me just read a couple of paragraphs here, kind of introduce this, lay it out for you. We're not going to get through this whole piece, but we'll get the gist out. Hours after he was sworn in as Attorney General, Merrick Garland and his deputies gathered in a wood panel conference room in the Justice Department for a private briefing on the investigation he had promised to make his highest priority, bringing to justice those responsible for the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. In the 2 months since the siege, federal agents had conducted 709 searches, charged 278 rioters, and identified 885 likely suspects, said Michael Sherwin, then acting U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, ticking through a slide presentation. Garland and some of his deputies nodded approvingly at the stats, and the new Attorney General called the progress remarkable, according to people in the room. Sherwin's office, with the help of the FBI, was responsible for prosecuting all crimes stemming from the January 6th attack. He had made headlines the day after by refusing to rule out the possibility that President Donald Trump himself could be culpable. Quote, "We are looking at all actors, not only the people who went into the building," Sherwin said in response to a reporter's question about Trump. "If the evidence fits the elements of a crime, they are going to be charged." But according to a copy of the briefing document, absent from Sherwin's 11-page presentation to Garland on March 11th was any reference to Trump or his advisors, those who did not go to the Capitol riot but orchestrated events that led to it. A Washington Post investigation found that more than a year would pass before prosecutors and FBI agents jointly embarked on a formal probe of actions directed from the White House to try to steal the election. Even then, the FBI stopped short of identifying the former president as a focus of that investigation. And here's the deal: a wariness about appearing partisan, institutional caution, and clashes over how much evidence was sufficient to investigate the actions of Trump and those around him all contributed to the slow pace. Garland and the Deputy Attorney General, Lisa Monaco, charted a cautious course aimed at restoring public trust in the department, while some prosecutors below them chafed, feeling top officials were shying away from looking at evidence of potential crimes by Trump and those close to him, the Post found, Grudy.
In November, this one, I'm starting to steam under my collar a little bit, Dom. The appearance of partisanship means that they're going to be what? They're not going to do their job because they didn't want to appear partisan. But
they're going to be called anyway. That's the whole point of being nonpartisan. You do the job.
80% of Republicans believe that this prosecution, this Jack Smith indictment, 37 of them against Donald Trump, they think it's political. Thank God you use such caution, Garland.
Yeah, good thing they waited over a year because, that perception was never there then, right?
In November, after Trump announced he was again running for president, making him a potential 2024 rival to President Biden, Garland appointed special counsel Jack Smith to take over the investigation into Trump's attempt to overturn the 2020 election. On June 8th, in a separate investigation that also turned over to the special counsel, Smith secured a grand jury indictment against the former president for mishandling classified documents after leaving office. Trump was charged with 31 counts of violating a part of the Espionage Act, as well as 6 counts arising from alleged efforts to mislead federal investigators. Hell, if you read the Mueller report, there's a little accusation there or 10.
It's kind of like what he does all the time.
The effort to investigate Trump over classified records had its own obstacles, including FBI agents who resisted raiding the former president's home. But the discovery of top secret documents in Trump's possession triggered an urgent national security investigation that laid out a well-defined legal path for prosecutors, compared with unprecedented task of building a case against Trump for trying to steal the election. Whether a decision about Trump's culpability for January 6th could have come any earlier is unclear. It could have, should have. Gotta clear my throat there a bit. The delays in examining that question began before Garland was even confirmed. Sherwin, senior Justice Department officials, and Paul Abate, the top deputy to FBI Director Christopher Wray, quashed a plan by prosecutors in the U.S. Attorney's Office to directly investigate Trump associates for any links to the riot, deeming it premature, according to 5 individuals familiar with the decision. Instead, they insisted on the methodical approach, focusing first on writers and going up the ladder. Well, it's Jacob's ladder, man. It is a long-ass ladder. The strategy was embraced by Garland, Monaco, and Wray. They remained committed to it even as evidence emerged of an organized, weeks-long effort by Trump and his advisors before January 6th to pressure state leaders. They didn't know that? We knew it. Everybody knew it. Read the paper. Justice officials and Vice President Mike Pence to block the certification of Biden's victory. In the weeks before the January 6th, Trump supporters boasted publicly that they had submitted fake electors on his behalf, but the Justice Department declined to investigate the matter. In February of 2021, the Post found the department did not actively probe the effort for nearly a year, and the FBI did not open an investigation of the elector scheme until April of 22, about 15 months after the attack. Did I mention I'm getting a little hot under the collar now? The Justice Department's painstaking approach to investigating Trump can be traced to Garland's desire to turn the page from missteps, bruising attacks, and allegations of partisanship in the department's recent investigations of both Russia's interference in the 2016 presidential election and Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server. Inside Justice, however, some have complained that the Attorney General's determination to steer clear of any claims of political motive has chilled efforts to investigate the former president. You couldn't use the T word. I think that's the Trump word, right, Dom? Said one former justice official briefed on the prosecutor's discussions. Troubling, Dom. Troubling. The overly cautious Department of Justice has delayed the investigation of the former president, his, co-conspirators, they might rightly be called? The inside the Beltway crew. Not the Proud Boys, not the goofballs that rushed the Capitol, but the people that planned it and incited it and funded it. They waited a year so they wouldn't appear political. And now a year and a half later, they finally get around to charging on the freaking Mar-a-Lago. The guy's got war plans in his desk drawer, and still 80% plus of Republicans think that this is a political prosecution.
A little bit more.
We waited.
In an interview with the Post, Matthew Graves, who succeeded Sherwin as the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, cautioned against drawing conclusions about the government's approach while work is ongoing. He noted that 23 of 29 affiliates and members of the Oath Keeper charged in connection with the attack had been convicted so far, several for seditious conspiracy, the first such convictions since 2009. A quote from Graves. I hear everybody kind of wants everything to go faster, he said.
Yes.
But I think if you kind of look at this in historical perspective, what the department has been able to achieve, I think when people get some distance from it, it will stand as something unprecedented. Still, there were consequences to moving at a slower pace. For many months after the attack, prosecutors did not interview White House aides or other key witnesses, according to authorities and attorneys, for some of those who have since been contacted by the special counsel. In the meantime, in that time, communications were put at risk of being lost or deleted, and memories left to fade. Oh, fading memories.
Everybody kept asking, where the hell is the FBI?
Well, we were asking it. And where were the attorney generals from the states? Josh Kaul, our pal here from Wisconsin. Apparently, if your explanation to us was to say that, well, the feds are on it, well, the feds weren't on it, man. So Dana Nessel, the AG from Michigan, maybe she got a heads up that the feds weren't on it, so she got a little more rambunctious about it. I'd like to see some of that energy coming out of the AG's office here in Wisconsin.
Well, it was June of 22, actually, and that would be after the actual investigation started, sometime early in 22, like a year and a half after the crimes were committed. Well, the DOJ by then, not to defend Josh Kaul in this unnecessarily, but that's when he told me,
okay, all right,
it was multi-jurisdictional and a DOJ problem. And Ish Ozan, the district attorney of Dane County, told me last weekend at the DPW, not at La Crosse, the good one up in Green Bay I was at, Ish told me it actually would be up to the DAs, not the AG.
From reaching hundreds of thousands of radio listeners. Show your American pride by helping sponsor radio promos, celebrating Independence Day, listing safe fireworks displays, and honoring military veterans. If your business would like to be involved, email your name and phone number to info@civicmedia.us. That's info@civicmedia.us.
Could there be a better name? Auto Value Parts Stores. They aren't just about air fresheners or fuzzy dice. Auto Value Parts Stores are all about parts, auto parts, and advice. Pros who know auto parts with tons of tips when you need them the most. You want real value? Don't go to a place with a cute name. Go to Auto Value. Could there be a better name? I didn't think so. Your Auto Value Parts Store. We've got the parts, we've got the smarts.
This is the story of a very special woman. Just a few knew about her superpowers. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Here's your Mad Radio forecast. Lows dip down to about 58 tonight under clear skies. Winds out of the east 5 to 10 miles an hour. Mainly sunny skies and calm tomorrow. Daytime highs approaching 87. Lows dip down to about 61 tomorrow night. Clear skies. Dry with temperatures a bit above average Wednesday and Thursday, and highs from the mid-80s to the upper 80s. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 86 degrees.
This summer, Mad Radio 92.7 WMDX has a new starting lineup. At 10, as goes Wisconsin. Then at noon, Civic Media Network News on Mad Radio.
Warning, listening to the devil's advocates may expose you to opposing views.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Thank you for listening to the greatest radio show ever. Make sure you check out the new and shiny, super cool app, civicmedia.us. Go to your app store, find Civic Media, of course, on the phones right now, 844-967-2789.
Dom, the New York Sun, or New York The Sun, reporting Jack Smith now expected to pull the trigger and charge Trump with January 6 offenses. And the source of that information, former Attorney General Bill Barr. Here's what Barr is saying. General Barr defends, former Attorney General Barr defends the Mar-a-Lago documents indictment and predicts the special counsel will also indict Trump for crimes related to the attack on the Capitol on January 6th, with special counsel Jack Smith's 37-count indictment relating to a trove of classified documents stored in a Mar-a-Lago bathroom, right, Dom? Stored at Mar-a-Lago presents its own distinct legal peril to President Trump. It also appears to have brought into focus the stakes of another criminal investigation, this one with respect to the attack on the Capitol on January 6th. Now, Dom, I keep telling you, this is the investigation I care the most about. And that's why I'm steaming under the collar when I find out the highest levels. Lisa Monaco, the former Attorney General, Merrick Garland, they were dragging their feet. They were making every effort not to appear partisan by not doing their jobs in a timely or effective fashion. And now, years later, they're getting around to it. But here's what Bill Barr says. That at least was the impression thrown off by the comments of Attorney General Barr made over the weekend to CBS's Robert Costa, where America's former top law enforcement official mused that charges for January 6th will be a hard case to make, but that nevertheless, he expects Mr. Smith will pull the trigger on an indictment this summer. I've never wanted something Bill Barr said to be more true than that. Those comments came in an interview where Mr. Barr called his old boss a fundamentally flawed person who engages in reckless conduct that leads to calamitous situations like this, which are very disruptive and hurt any political cause he is associated with. He also called Mr. Trump's behavior indefensible and compared him to a 9-year-old kid.
Oh, now you do it. Now you do it, Barr. Now you get around to it. Couldn't do it to his face.
Well,
a little bit here from the Sun, another alumnus of the Trump administration, one-time.
Let's not forget Barr resigned just before Christmas, just before the January 6th actually came to fruition, after Trump had lost the election. And when they were plotting to steal the election back, that's when Bill Barr said, I'm outie.
Yeah, there's great leadership. Don't let the door hit you in the ass. Let the lunatics run the asylum. John Kelly, one-time chief of staff, recently opined that Trump was scared crapless by Mr. Smith's indictment, which levels charges that could result in decades in prison. Trump fired back on his truthy social. John Kelly pretended to be a tough guy, but was actually weak, ineffective, born with a very small brain. He said Kelly was a mummy who sat in his office and stared at the ceiling. Barr's prediction of an indictment related to January 6th, Mr. Smith's second purview is to investigate, quote, whether any person or entity unlawfully interfered with the transfer of power following the 2020 presidential election or the certification of the Electoral College vote. Suggests Palm Beach could be the beginning, not the end, of Trump's legal travails.
844-967-2789. Hate to do it. CJ, defend away, man. Tell me why Donald Trump ain't guilty of anything ever.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking
CJ.
We got a lot of great candidates on the Republican side, so we're having
not for U.S. Senate in Wisconsin.
We're having debates. Now, someone's got to tell this president that the Queen has already died. God save the Queen. I mean, have you seen 70% of Americans don't want Biden to run? At what point does your party realize that this guy has lost it. He's done. And
well, that's why there's a primary season, and that's why there's a general election, CJ. Let's talk about your guy for a minute. How are you feeling right now? When people say that the Biden department has weaponized, quote unquote, the FBI, you know, those hippie liberals over at the FBI, you know, Department of Justice, those guys are just so woke they can't get anything done. They sat on their hands, CJ, because they were concerned that people like you would think they were acting politically by following the facts and following the information and investigating what was in open air right at the time. So what is your opinion? Should the Department of Justice investigated Trump earlier, CJ?
Oh, yeah, they haven't tried to investigate him long enough already. Well, they sure did. They buried the 1023 form and hid that. Christopher Wray, it is politicized.
Who's Christopher Wray? I mean, that's a Trump appointee, right, CJ?
Homer.
Right, CJ? Christopher Wray is a holdover from Donald Trump, correct?
He's a Trump appointee. So you're saying he's politicized against the guy that appointed him?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, he turned out.
Well, you know, they brought Brennan in. They brought Clapper in. They've had to testify because the 51 liars that
everybody lying.
Oh, and now Adam Pencilneck Schiff is going to be booted out of Congress. We can only
no.
Come on.
Republicans of conscience would not take that up. Like 20 Republicans voted against that, CG, and the fact that 180 Republicans voted for it just tells me what a craven party.
Yes, everything you need to know. Here's the deal. In my opinion, looking at this, yes, an abundance of caution. Okay. Took a year and a half. Okay. Now, Republicans, say it with me. This is not a weaponized FBI. If anything, they were overly cautious. If anything, they were too concerned about acting like a weaponized FBI. So you can just put that one aside. And if Jack Smith comes through and this trial gets up and down prior to the election, well, timing was perfect and all is forgiven. 844-967-2789. Coming back with your calls.
In-town call, 1 p.m. The Todd Allbaugh Show on Mad Radio, 92.7 WMDX.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. A race against time to find a research submersible or small submarine that's missing hundreds of miles off Newfoundland. It was carrying 5 people to view wreckage of the Titanic.
It's designed to take people to the Titanic to these depths of about 2.4 miles. So there is a great challenge for these rescuers to be able to find it, one, and then bring it back to the service if that's possible, all within that 96-hour time frame.
ABC transportation reporter Sam Sweeney. The White House calls Secretary of State Antony Blinken's trip to China a good step forward in mending relations between the nations. It included a brief face-to-face meeting between Blinken and President Xi. President Biden is in California. He'll announce more than $500 million in climate adaptation projects and attend a few fundraisers. A federal magistrate ruled that former President Trump cannot discuss evidence obtained in the investigation into his mishandling of classified documents. This is ABC News.
News is brought to you by Gingras Thompson & Walks, a statewide team of personal injury lawyers getting you the justice you deserve. Call 855-954-1186 for a free consultation.
For Civic Media News, I'm Terry Bell. Here's what you need to know in south central Wisconsin. A man is dead after a shooting in downtown Madison early yesterday. Madison police say it happened on East Dayton Street at around 3:30 in the morning. They say the victim was a 20-year-old man who grew up in Madison. He died after he was taken to the hospital. Police say it appears to be a targeted shooting. If it's ruled a homicide, it would be Madison's 7th this year. The University of Wisconsin's Choral Union is disbanding after 130 years. The choir group was founded at UW-Madison in 1893. The Choral Union was made up of students, alumni, and community members who would perform classical music at the end of each semester with the UW Symphony Orchestra. The School of Music says it's shifting its resources to focus more on students. I'm Terry Bell, and this is Civic Media News.
The law firm of Gingras, Thompson & Walks has a track record of making life-changing positive differences for their clients. $5.25 million to a woman who suffered brain injuries and her husband passed away when struck by a drunk driver. $1 million to 3 different individuals injured by drunk drivers. $1 million settlement to a man injured in a motorcycle accident. Call Gingras, Thompson & Walks, 855-954-1186.
Calling to win, Gingras, Thompson & Walks, GTWlawyers.com.
Hey, Darcy, I just saw the perfect house. Can you help me write an offer on it?
I'd be happy to, Brian. Did you see it at an open house?
No, I just called the sign and had the agent show it to me. I didn't want to bug you.
Right. How many times have you heard me say don't call the sign?
All of them?
You call the agent working for the seller, and once you see the property with that agent, I'm no longer free to write an offer on it.
So...
You need to hire us from the beginning, help you find the right home, negotiate on your behalf, and protect your interests all the way through the process, and it shouldn't cost you a dime.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. Find them at solidarityrealty.com.
Look up cheese curds, you'll find this basic definition. Wet pieces of curdled milk. Well, it should also include the word delicious. As we continue to celebrate June Dairy Month, do you know how much milk is needed to make 1 pound of cheese curds? 16 ounces, 64 ounces, or 160 ounces, 10 pounds of milk? The answer coming up.
It actually is a sound of freshness.
Rachel Kerr is talking about squeaky curds. She's with the Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin and a bit of a cheese nerd.
Those elastic protein strands rub against the enamel of your teeth and create that characteristic sound.
The squeak turns stretchy when battered and deep fried. Some believe the idea to fry globs of cheese happened by accident. I consider it a happy accident. Okay, so did you guess it takes 10 pounds of milk to make 1 pound of curds? Now we want to know your favorite and where do you get your squeaky or deep fried curds? Go to our Civic Media Facebook.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
And stops my mind from wandering.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, rolling through the big Monday Happy Hour, the Juneteenth edition. And people are asking, do you guys really read the text? I do now. If you use the new app-based text, I read them now because they come to my phone now. Now I can read them. Someone from McWanago says, I'm using the new app right now, ! Oh, and a couple of comments on CJ. First one, Clay is such a jerk off. The next one, CJ sounds like he's been crying a lot lately. And another, he can't actually respond to the question. That's the problem with CJ. He can't often respond to the question. 844-967-2789. Your questions, your comments, your hot takes right here. Connie from Madison, what do you got for us?
Hey, Connie.
Hi. Hey, thanks for taking my call. You know, when I know Biden has age, he's 80, but Trump just turned 77, so he's not that much younger. So at least Biden's been around in the Senate long enough, and he's been president and has gotten things done. And the only thing Donald Trump did was give out a big tax cut.
Well, many of his rich donors like that big tax cut, trying to
oh yeah, they love that tax cut.
Pay it forward and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Connie, I don't think Joe Biden gets enough credit for the good work he's done. I think when you compare these two candidates, let's call them, because they're both running for the same office again, one under multiple indictment, the other from the White House. But Donald Trump is not exactly the most cogent guy of all time. He's like man, woman, camera,
TV.
You know what I mean, Connie? When you compare the actual statements made by these respective candidates, I got to tell you, I'm not really impressed with either one, but at least I believe Joe Biden's got a pulse in his heart. I don't know what drives Donald Trump other than love of Donald Trump.
I think that's it.
That's it. Even Barr said so. Even, some of his other people said that that's all he's got is for himself. Even his own daughter didn't send a happy Father's Day.
Well, my kids didn't do much for me either. Is that a sign of a bad father? Because my one kid works at a Mexican restaurant, not the authentic kind, but the chain kind. And he said, Dad, I'm feeling kind of broke. At 9:00, he came home from his work shift with like a tin of steak fajita, and he's like,
There
"Oh
you
no,
go.
I overpacked it. Happy Father's Day."
He could have made you a handmade card like he did when he was little.
They barely did it then.
So
Barely did it then.
Oh my. Okay, well, that's all I had to say.
Well,
All right,
Connie,
thank you, Connie. Appreciate it.
you know, the moms get a hell of a lot more respect than the dads do.
Well, they've earned it.
The moms do. earn it.
They do.
They're better at the parenting
Uh-huh.
my household.
They do all the hard lifting. You know, if men could have kids, there wouldn't be any.
Be our last generation.
Right. 844-967-2789. All right. So let's thank you, CJ, for the call. Not really to the point. I think the point is the timing. So, and I appreciate, and certainly, you know, you don't go lightly to investigate a former president, quote unquote. I get that. So you want to make sure and double check and dot all your I's and cross all your T's. Okay. But how many months does that take? How many times does there have to be something where some investigators like, hey, we got this, or hey, we got that? No, work our way up. So what did that really cost us? Well, it cost time, presumably, obviously time. And presumably it costs some evidence, you know, some of those text streams get deleted, memories fade, things happen. I mean, I couldn't tell you where I was 15 months ago. I'd have to look it up.
I'd tell you where you were.
But I'm pretty sure if I was involved in an attempted overthrow of the United States government, I might have an idea. I probably would want to try to forget that when the man comes around town. So I can appreciate that. But here's where we're at. Now this lands us right here, as everyone knows, in the beginnings of the election season. And by the time a trial comes and or a conviction, well, when is that happening? So I withhold all my judgment because we have yet to see how this truly plays out timing wise. And it could be, as one of the people in the article said, that, you know, history will look at this as a well done operation, essentially, right? Well, I would only assume that if we're able to get an answer as to whether or not one of the two main front runners of the political parties here in the United States is going to run as a convicted felon prior to the election, prior to debates, perhaps, right? So that's going to be the tell. That's going to be the tell. Now, and ultimately, the question will be: did that patience, did that caution, was it worth it? We don't have that answer yet.
We were embarrassed, is the quote in the headline. DOJ insiders told Reporter they acted on January 6th only after House committees shamed them. Now, I've already seen some pushback on headlines of this sort on Twitter. Some saying that the Department of Justice was already well into their investigatory mode and they just weren't doing so publicly. So we don't know all the timelines. They're not all public. But Sarah K. Burris, a little bit from the Post as well, the Washington Post, revealed the Department of Justice and the FBI were resistant, that's a nice word, to opening a probe into Donald Trump for January 6th for over a year. But reporter Carol Lenning told MSNBC on Monday they were finally shamed into acting when the House Select Committee launched an investigation into the insurrection. Lenning began by explaining that between her and her co-author, they interviewed more than 100 people, and many had assumed that the DOJ was already involved in the January 6th investigation. What her report revealed was that, at the time, it was not. She said the reluctance was because the FBI was afraid of Donald Trump because so many people had lost their jobs or careers because of the FBI's probe into Trump and the alleged Russia connections during the 2016 election. At the same time, she said the DOJ was scared that if it went after the January 6th attack, it would appear as if it were going after the Republican Party because so many Republicans were involved. If your entire party is criminals, aren't you a street gang or something?
Well, I mean, if everyone's a criminal, then I guess they should all get investigated.
Now, Merrick Garland and Lisa Monaco embraced the strategy of let's do it like a mob case, Lenning said. Build up from the riot. Figure out if there's somebody higher and higher and higher, and perhaps it will lead to those individuals around Donald Trump, perhaps not. let the evidence lead us up the ladder. The problem is no ladder between militia members, the Oath Keepers, and the Proud Boys wearing flak jackets and bulletproof vests and carrying bear spray and emails to Mark Meadows or Donald Trump or Rudy Giuliani about convincing state officials to help them create fake electors to swing the election for Trump and away from Biden. As it started to emerge in the summer and especially the fall of 2022, still the DOJ sort of turned its eyes away from this until it became a drumbeat of criticism, news stories, some of them on this story and some of them in my paper, and a groundswell of concern that the January 6th committee was really without the same kind of power as the Department of Justice, uncovering stunning and worrisome and likely criminal acts, she continued. Now, host on MSNBC, Nicole Wallace, pointed to the important explanation she gave about the missing links between the militias and the White House. But it was also true that Trump committed crimes in plain sight, she said. Yes, we've known this. We've heard the tape from Georgia, right? He committed the crime of blocking an official proceeding. Even with the limits to their investigative powers, he committed the crimes of insurrection. I mean, there were criminal acts that were ignored. Lenning said that inside the Justice Department, there are a lot of prosecutors that were more disheartened than angry about January 6th going uninvestigated. She said that there were many at the DOJ that were pressing to investigate the false elector scandal. It was even referred to the DOJ by the Attorney General of Michigan, your girl Dana Nesseldom. Still, the DOJ took a full year and 4 months before it acted. Ugh. I think that another really important thing, Nicole, which you have really zeroed in on over and over again, is the January 6th committee's work. The Department of Justice had said to us in different ways, this committee didn't influence us at all, except when you interview people who were right in the thick of it, they said, look, we were embarrassed and goaded into it. It was the work of the January 6th committee that made it impossible for the DOJ to justify its bottom-up strategy, she said. 844-967-2789. Now, I have seen other headlines, tweets primarily, pushing back on that sort of a headline. They're claiming, the tweetbacks, well, you know, the Department of Justice investigating outside of your purview. But if they've done 100 interviews, it's hard to question the comprehensiveness of the reporting at the Post. I'm going to call them the ones with the true insights until I hear it differently from the authors of this piece. 844-967-2789. Pizza Box Mike, also a Civic Media host, Friday night, 7 o'clock, right here outside the Pizza Box. How you doing, Michael?
Hey, Mike.
Not bad, but man, it sounds like CJ needs some OJ instead of vodka and Trump Orange. Oh, it's not about that. You know, yeah, sure, it's kind of funny, you know, and you hold your breath every time you see Biden have to step over grass that's like taller than 3 inches. But it's not necessarily about that as it is we need somebody further left of Biden. And I don't know, I'm a little excited. Did you guys hear that somebody is kind of like making a move from the left to maybe take a run at in the primary?
Are we talking about Cornel West, or who are you talking about, Michael?
Ooh, man, if Cornel West gets in, that's really going to heat it up. I like it because you got, you know,
Cornel West
Jr.,
may get in.
It's a little weird.
Cornel West, who actually was a guest lecturer at UW and has some local ties here in Wisconsin. We met Cornel West actually with Jill Stein, of all people.
He was at Fighting Bob in Madison.
He was, and he's talking about running as a Green Party candidate, Michael. That would be very troubling for the future of the Biden presidency.
Well, it'd be troubling for probably the whole country because people aren't smart enough to jump on to anything green. They like, you know, I guess smoke haze from Canada. I don't know. But also, you remember I said somebody should run, and it looks like Gavin Newsom's starting to make some noise too.
No, yeah, Gavin Newsom campaigned with Biden today in California. He was standing by his man.
There you go. Well, maybe that $600 million for climate change had something to do with that trip today. I guess that's what it was to solid that up. Maybe they were both playing me, huh?
Well, Gavin Newsom, I think, is the future betrothed of the Democratic Party, this party that so wants to fall in love with their presidential candidates. Gavin Newsom's got all the qualities, chief executive of a really big economy in a really big state. He's a handsome guy. He says all the right stuff. He's, I believe, a lawyer by trade. So he's got all the qualifications, and I think he will be the probable front runner if he jumps in 2028. But in the meantime, he's got Joe Biden's back.
Pizza Box. If Cornel West runs as, third party, People's Party or Green Party, whatever the case may be, where would you fall on that? Would you vote for someone like that, or would you stay with Joe Biden and the Dem Party?
Oh, I'll get blamed just like when I supported Bernie over Hillary. You bet, man. I'm thinking about the future, not about, moderation and all that.
But a
stuff.
Ross Perot third-party candidacy could toss the election, maybe not to Donald Trump, but certainly to a Ron DeSantis, Mike. Let's not forget the example of the state of Wisconsin. Jill Stein got 36,000 votes in the state of Wisconsin in the 2016 elective cycle. And if you'll recall, Hillary Clinton lost the state of Wisconsin by 21,000 votes. I mean, the margin of loss was much smaller than the number of voters that the Green candidate of the time, Jill Stein, peeled off. And oddly, we saw Jill Stein and Cornel West in a restaurant in Washington, D.C. that night.
Ironic.
Pizza Box. Come back with us. Board Devil's Advocates. One last segment for your hot takes. 844-967-2789. I am worried about a third-party run. Third-party run could have disastrous impact for the Democratic nominee. Let's call him Joe Biden. Come back, more Devils.
Design Garden. Remember when the internet was new? Back then, you had to leave your house to start a business. Companies used to pay programmers bags of cash to get online. Now, small businesses can get online with a Facebook business page, or Squarespace, or Google My Business, or WordPress. But which tools should you use? Can you afford to go down the wrong path? Design Garden uses modern tools to build your website the right way. Find us online at design.garden. Again, that's design.garden.
The Todd Allbaugh Show.
We'll move into the afternoon, Monday through Friday, 1 until 3. Trygve Olsen has graciously agreed to follow us into the afternoon. We're going to get to talk about the Lincoln Project and politics in Wisconsin, all across the state of Wisconsin.
I know, isn't that exciting? Where the beer is cold, the cheese curds are squeaky, the Harleys roar, the Eagles soar, and the Packers score, Todd.
The Todd Allbaugh Show. Weekday afternoons from 1 till 3 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
This is the story of a very special woman. Just a few knew about her superpowers. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Here's your Mad Radio forecast. Lows around 58. Tonight, under clear skies, easterly winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. High temperatures reach up to 87. Tomorrow, mainly sunny. Clear skies tomorrow night. Lows level off around 61. Dry with temperatures a bit above average Wednesday and Thursday, and highs from the mid-80s to the upper 80s. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 86 degrees.
This summer, Mad Radio 92.7 WMDX has a new starting lineup. Beginning at 6, Up North News. Then at 8, the
I would have gotten away with it, too, if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, our last segment of the day. Make sure you stick around. Maggie Dawn from the Maggie Dawn Show. She's coming up in the 6 o'clock hour. You can join us now, 844-967-2789.
Dom, we've got an update from the shooting at the Juneteenth celebration in Milwaukee. It's now being acknowledged. There will be a press briefing. Multiple people were shot Monday afternoon around where Milwaukee's Juneteenth celebration had been held earlier, according to the Milwaukee Police Department. The shooting happened directly outside Greater Philadelphia Church of God in Christ, North Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, according to a Facebook Live video taken by a bystander in the aftermath of the shooting. The incident, which took place near the intersection of West Locust Street, was called in at 4:21 p.m. In an email, Milwaukee police said they would be holding a media briefing regarding multiple people being shot. More information will be released at that time, according to Milwaukee police. And there were thousands gathered earlier today, Dom. The Juneteenth, the events, 9 to 4 p.m. The shooting occurred right around 4:20.
Terrible.
Multiple people shot, according to Milwaukee police. They will update us. I'm sure we'll have updates right here on the Civic Media Network. We'll update you when we can. And we'll take your calls right now, at least if you're dialing, at 844-967-2789. Jack from Merrimack. Welcome back, Jack. What do you got?
Hey, Jack.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm all in favor of crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's when you charge people in high political office. But waiting years and years and years has had this really damaging effect on our democracy. First of all, an insurrectionist party has taken over one of our houses in Congress, the House of Representatives. And secondly, there are at least 3 people from Wisconsin in high political office who should be charged. They should not be eligible for any political office by the 14th Amendment.
Jack, name names. That's what we do here. Who do you think, which Wisconsin electeds do you think are criminally involved?
I'm going to start out with Derek Van Orden, who was shown by video to have breached the Capitol on January.
I'm not
6th.
clear that that's entirely true. He was on the Capitol grounds, but I don't know that he breached the interior of the building, or he's probably more likely to be in prison or at least jail than in the U.S. Congress. But he has been convicted of other crimes, like bringing a handgun on a flight back from Cedar Rapids, but that's a different case for a different lawyer.
Okay, the second one I will say is pretty obvious, and he even admitted it on your, I believe, you've played clips of him admitting it, and that is, of course, Ron Johnson, who was clearly involved in a conspiracy, because that means at least 2 people to overthrow the election by promoting false electors to the vice president, and he admitted that.
No one's arguing against the opinion that Ron Johnson's up to his albino eyebrow.
It was just a couple of seconds, couple of minutes, less than an hour. It wasn't a whole lot of time, Jack. I mean, how much time does it take to get blood on your hands, do you think?
One shot. Anyway, the third one is, of course, Bob Spindell, who shouldn't be involved in anything political in Wisconsin, because he was one of those that tried to represent himself as an elector, and of course signed the papers, and that's a fraud. That's an election fraud. So yes, cross the T's, dot the I's, but get some of these people, and if you wait too darn long, they're going to be in pretty much unassailable positions, which is sort of what's happened.
Well, and that's, of course, obviously unacceptable, Jack. And that's what the delay has cost us, man. And, and thanks for the call, man. Certainly appreciate you listening. You can call 844-967-2789. Of course, Bob Spindell, Wisconsin Election Commissioner, ironically enough, also a fraudulent elector. And he's walking around talking trash about how excited they were that their GOP operation suppressed votes in the city of Milwaukee.
Just black and Latino votes, Tom.
Oh, okay. That's hell of a job there. So, and there's lots of other folks as well, Jack. And I guess I'm not surprised that it took them a little while. I am surprised it took them that long.
All's well that ends with Trump in jail.
Ultimately, we'll see what happens, right? But now what I don't want, especially now that we've come to the understanding that this whole weaponization, much like a lot of the talking points of the MAGAs and the fascists, is not accurate. And as reported today in the Washington Post, they were, if anything, overly cautious, political on the other way to not appear political. They were so political, which does not bode, I don't think, confidence. If you want to get confidence of the American people, you go after people who break the law, regardless of who they are, how much money they have, the color of their skin, their political ideology, all of that thing. You shoot someone on Fifth Avenue, you should be arrested and tried, period. You shouldn't, if Donald Trump shot someone on Fifth Avenue, I wouldn't expect the DOJ to sit on their hands for 16 months before they decided to go, oh, well, maybe we should do something. So, now we're stuck with the timing. But if we understand, and I know the MAGAs never will, that this is not political, then you can't stop any sort of prosecution because of an election. That's not the case. So full forward, man. I hope within the next couple of weeks, January 6th charges come down from DC, from Jack Smith, maybe some additional documents, espionage charges from New Jersey, and Fani Willis in Fulton County, Georgia. She, getting around the corner to beginning of August, late July, early August. That's going to come down. So let's keep this thing going and line them up and knock them down, but get them done before the election so people know. If you do that, then all is forgiven. And notice I'm not saying he's got to be guilty. Just get the trials done. We know he's guilty, but you gotta give the people a chance. That's how you get confidence of the DOJ back. Do your job.
Do you think the MAGA, the greater Republican Party, which we've talked about often, Dom, is kind of turned towards MAGA, turned towards Trump, sort of at the defiance of all logic? Do you think the fever will break at some point? Do you think the Republicans abandon the man and just say, you know what, he's a little too toxic even for us?
I do think so. As the heat continues to get turned up and as we get closer, absolutely. We played a montage Evan pulled together last week of a bunch of Republicans going after Donald Trump. And all the testimony. These aren't communist, socialist Bernie Sanders. These are all people in Trump's circle that are testifying honestly under oath about Trump's behavior. This is mega world on mega. So look at yourself. Don't look at us.
Stick around. We've got the Maggie Dawn Show. We've got the Paul Revere Show with attorney Mark Thompson. And we've got Rick Smith, Heavy 100, number 100 talker.
You wouldn't clean a dirty shirt by running a white cloth over the top of it, nor would you try to get it clean by sprinkling